Hello, everyone. Today we're talking with my dear colleague and friend who comes from an organization with which we often work with, and that is why I'm extremely glad to be conducting this interview today. So Timur, can you please introduce yourself? Who are you? What is your function in CPG, and basically what does the Center for Policy and Governance do?
Hi, Danira. It's nice to talk to you. My name is Timur Abaspahić. I'm a researcher here at Center for Policy and Governance. I've been working here since 2017. We are an independent think tank established in 2009 with the goal to support and promote sustainable development process in Bosnia and Herzegovina. We create and advocate for advanced economic and social development policies and conduct high-quality independent research with the aim to help our decision makers make better decisions, basically. In the previous period, we have been working tracking actually in the implementation of public investments. We have been tracking the stability of the financial sector, and we have recently restarted a program for advocating better education policies, as well as published a regional study regarding the shadow economy or gray economy.
So 2020 was an election year in Bosnia and Herzegovina. What were the activities that CPG carried out regarding elections?
Well, in my personal opinion, every election cycle in Bosnia and Herzegovina is extremely important, since Bosnia and Herzegovina lacks in implementation of reforms, which is showed best within the international research papers that are annually published, such as Global Competitiveness Index, where Bosnia and Herzegovina does not hold highest ranking, or research such as Doing Business Index, where Bosnia and Herzegovina has moved back one place. So the need for organizations such as ourselves and the decision makers to improve the implementation of the reforms is higher than ever, especially given the COVID-19 impacts to the domestic economy. I mean, domestic economy, where the support for the private sector has lacked since the start of the pandemic. Now, this election cycle, 2020 elections, comes in this very unfavorable period for Bosnia and Herzegovina, given the fact that we are now facing a drop in GDP of around 10%, 8 to 10%. Now, they are not final numbers, but they are quite substantial. And we have felt the need to conduct a research regarding the priorities for the local governments in terms of reform measures that need to be implemented in this election cycle. Apart from that, we have taken participation in creating Glassometer with our partner organization, Zašto, and where we aim to help the citizens of Bosnia and Herzegovina make an informed decision when voting. Basically, that's something that we have done regarding the election cycle.
Like you mentioned, you published an analysis that deals with socio-economic policies in the context of 2020 local elections. What are the key recommendations and measures that this analysis brings, and what were the areas that analysis covered?
This is a very specific analysis, which covers the reform areas based on the previous focus of the local governments, especially given the fact that there are three levels of governments in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So the jurisdictions of local governments were significantly taken into consideration. We have conducted a questionnaire. Basically, we drafted it based on the key socioeconomic areas that need to be tackled in this election cycle and the following, given the fact that the proposed measures are something that needs to be continuously monitored and improved. So we have disseminated the questionnaire to organizations of civil sector, private sector, and the academic community. The set of priorities that has been formulated given the inputs of 30 organizations, which are all over the country, are divided into 6 different areas. Now, 3 of these areas are directly connected to the jurisdictions of the local governments. Now, this is infrastructure and communal services, the improvement of the business environment between the local governments and the civil sector, and 3 additional priority areas which need to be implemented in coordination with higher instances of government, such as security, healthcare, and education.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, this year you published Glassometer or Votometer. Can you please explain to us what is that? What is actually Votometer and how does it work?
Well, CPU's participation in creating the Votometer actually lied in the key findings of the analysis I just mentioned, which is the key socio-economic policies in the context of local elections in 2020. The questions that CPU actually did submit to Zaštita in the creation of the questionnaire, which is basically which is fundamental to creating Glassometer, are related to the socio-economic challenges that citizens are dealing with in their everyday lives, but may not actually know it or may not know the position of the political parties regarding those subjects. Now, the questionnaire, which was devised just to tackle this problem, was disseminated to all political parties just to get their information on how they stand on certain issues. Then the answers are actually incorporated into the data set, and then the questions are asked. The Votometer application actually asks the citizens how they stand, which is basically coded on the yes, no, or I don't know answers. The answers the citizens provide on the Glassometer application are processed, and then you can see as a normal citizen on how your maybe favorable or political party that you favor stands on certain issues, which can actually help you make an educated decision when voting. So this is the key aspect of Glassometer. Now, Glassometer for this election cycle holds, I believe, 16 different areas, or actually municipalities in Bosnia and Herzegovina, with 12 being published on the November elections, where the local elections were held, and the one proposed election cycle in Mostar was held. Additionally, we have Brčko district, I believe, as one of the additional areas where Glassometer is active and where the political parties have given their statements regarding these issues.
Was it a challenge to create local Votometer given the large number of differences that each local sub-government carries?
Well, honestly, of course. Since the jurisdictions of local governments are fairly limited, but still there's certain issues regarding the quality or actually development of the private sector that interests CPU as an organization, especially parafiscal fees, as something that has been a topic of discussion for the past couple of years, actually, after the creation of the registry of parafiscal fees. Parafiscal fees, in their definition, actually demand some sort of service or use of public space, or some sort of fee that the government is actually charging for. But in Bosnia and Herzegovina, there have been identified over 3,000 parafiscal fees, some of which don't have any function, so to say, except for filling up the budgets and going into general expenditure, which is not something that taxes by themselves should do. So these types of questions are very specific for local governments, given the fact that they actually charge these fees, but are not specifically in charge of changing the laws and bylaws regarding their height or the percentage in which they are calculated. They are at least some of the communal parafiscal fees are at the cantonal level in terms of their law definitions. So the citizens that live in certain municipalities can actually express their opinion regarding this topic and can influence their local governments in order to abolish some of these parafiscal fees, which are their jurisdiction, in one way, and in the other way can through their local municipalities impact higher instances of government in order to abolish these fees and make ease of business and make doing business a bit easier. Additionally, something that also interests CPU as an organization is the different types of permits that are issued by the local governments, or actually municipalities. The cost of these of these things are very high, or at least higher in some municipalities than others. So the harmonization process is very much needed, and the public opinion on these matters is extremely important and is something that our organization strives to present to the decision makers.
How satisfied are you with the results achieved by Votometer?
Well, the results are great, actually, because people are pretty much confused on these. I mean, they have, of course, they have their own opinions on these matters, but generally people in Bosnia and Herzegovina have an issue that they are not being heard. And I believe that through this type of application, that on online tools, they feel that they have some sort of a connection with the decision-making process, and that they can actually impact the forming of the government, and they can make an educated vote based on the answers they provide. So this tool is very useful, is proving to be very useful to the general public, and the reactions that we receive are well, awesome.
Thank you, Timur, for talking today. I really hope to hear more from you next time about all the interesting activities that CPG does.
Thank you for having me.